Data is no longer static. It changes every day, sometimes every minute. And the way we ingest data to Microsoft Fabric is evolving just as fast. So the big question is which tool for which kind of data sources? Can we automate the ingestion process to meet the speed of innovation? Can we do it in a less complex way, like no code or low code way? Today, I'll break this down in a very simple and practical way. In this video, we'll look into how the data ingestion work in Microsoft Fabric, specifically using Dataflow Gen2 and data pipeline via a mind map. We'll also discuss the difference between these two, and we'll solve few multiple choice questions to get that clarity. Hello, good afternoon, friends. Welcome back to my channel. In our previous session, we were talking about the coding and scripting skills which would be needed by data engineer. Today, we'll deep dive more towards their roles and responsibilities. As you can see here, 30 to 35% of coverage would be for ingesting and transforming data. So we'll look how the ingestion happens, what are the different tools which are utilized in Microsoft Azure to ingest the data. So I'll directly take you to the flow where we'll look forward in terms of how the data ingestion happens and what are the different tools which are specifically designed together to ensure the seamless data flow between sources towards the data lake or various warehouses which are utilized within the Azure environment. So here you can see the data which are available as source. Those could be of various data types. For example, there could be streaming data, like for example, the IoT devices which might be continuously producing the streams of data which need to be ingested to a database systems via ETL, and then probably ultimately creating some visualizations or results or parametric evaluations, or probably it might be getting consumed by data analysts or engineers or data scientists to create predictions and machine learning algorithms. There could be unstructured data, for example, images, videos, audio, or free text. It doesn't have a fixed structure. So these are called no unstructured data or not having any structure. Then semi-structured data, which are arranged in terms of key value pair, for example, JSON file. So those can be also ingested to the database systems or data warehouses. We spoke about relational databases. The databases which are arranged in terms of rows and columns are stored in relational database. For example, SQL Server or Oracle databases are example of relational databases. Then other Azure data services. Here you can see the number one represents the sources of various data, and the next step is to ingest them to ultimately a warehouse or storage. But essentially there is a need of various tools to ingest the data. We'll deep dive more in terms of the tool which is specific to either Dataflow Gen2 or data pipeline. So how these two are different is Dataflow Gen2, which is 2.1 here, you can see it's a cloud-based tool which is creating a ETL flow. Like you will extract the information from the source data, you will be able to transform. There are 300 plus transformation possibilities which are there, and ultimately you would be able to load them to ultimate destinations, which could be like, for example, Azure Data Lake. This is the storage platform which has been provided by Azure, where you would be able to store the data. So when we are utilizing Dataflow Gen 2, we would be able to connect 100 plus data sources, as we saw them in the source data sections, and we'll be able to utilize Power Query, which would kind of give us a visual representation or visual flow of information flowing from the source to destination. So Dataflow Gen 2, it also works with Power BI or Data Lake or Data Factory in to and fro methodology to kind of interchange the data, or possibly you would be able to see a display or visualization. For example, here I can see the Power BI can be directly connected with Dataflow Gen 2 to display the data in terms of a visual representation. So it'll like give us an flexibility to utilize the extraction transformation load once we are able to set up our pipeline in terms of ETL. The same ETL can be utilized over time to iterate the process. The other component or the other ingestion method is here is pipeline. So it's orchestration based data extraction or ingestion methodology. So pipeline, as the name indicates, it's like encapsulating a sequence of activities that performs the data movements and processing. So the core difference between a data flow Gen2 and pipeline is like in the pipeline you don't have flexibility of like no code or low code kind of ETL mechanism. Here basically there is a need of adding additional scripts or stored procedures to kind of perform that ETL functionality. So we'll try to understand the difference between Dataflow Gen2 and pipeline through an analogy. Let's consider Dataflow Gen2 as a chef who's cleaning the kitchen, cutting the vegetables, sourcing them, and probably helping to prepare a dish. Whereas the pipeline is a restaurant manager who's taking care of delivery of those dishes to the customer who is waiting. So they will have a schedule, who would be working on what. And that's the reason we are calling pipeline to have support on the orchestration process and end-to-end automations of the movements and workflows. Whereas Dataflow Gen 2, it is specifically designed for the data preparation and transformation using a low code interface. And then complexity, basically, as we can see, Dataflow Gen2 is utilizing low code or no code interface. So basically it's very user friendly. It's ideal for citizen developers and analysts who are beginners, or probably they don't have a lot of scripting knowledge. Whereas pipeline, that is something which is very advanced. It's suited for engineers needing a control over a complete complex workflow. The core functionality for Dataflow Gen2 is it connects to 100 plus sources. It applies 300 plus transformations. It load data to destinations. Whereas the pipeline, it executes activities like it copy, it transforms, it triggers. There could be schedule based triggers which you can set, and it'll execute the pipeline activities at a specific point of time. Use cases, this is good. The Dataflow Gen2 is good for cleaning the data to shape, to slice and dice, and to kind of prepare the data before the analysis. But the pipeline is, it is very much towards orchestrations of this. So I think it'll be good to utilize in terms of scheduling the data flow, monitoring it, orchestrating the end-to-end pipelines. Integration for Dataflow Gen 2, it direct integrates with lakehouse, warehouses, and real-time data sources, stream of data and IoT sensors and things like that. Whereas pipeline, it integrates with multiple services. For example, Azure Database, which is a data lake, lakehouse. Then Synapse, Azure Synapse as a service. We'll deep dive more, during the progress of the course. And it also integrates with the APIs where which might talk to a specific applications and storage devices and things like that. So the execution style for Dataflow Gen 2 is focused on row level transformations, whereas the pipeline is focused towards more workflow orchestration level, and managing the dependencies associated with the data. Audiences, we discussed about it, because Dataflow Gen 2 is basically low code one. So I think citizen developers and analysts, business users are the target audiences, whereas pipeline is more complex, and data engineers, IT team, and advanced developers are right audiences for pipeline. So via Dataflow Gen 2, we can have limited scheduling, because this is more focused towards transformation of data. Whereas pipeline is risk scheduling, there could be automated triggers, and the actions can happen based on the triggers. All right, friends. So let's solve few of the MCQs pertaining to our discussion today. Number one question is, which unique feature of Dataflow Gen 2 can significantly reduce data refresh time for a slower data sources? Option one, extracting data wants for reuse, reducing the frequency of data sources connection. Option B, implementing row level security to minimize data exposure. Option C, automating data refresh schedules without user interventions. So as we know, Dataflow Gen 2 is specifically for manual kind of like data mapping or data ingesting source, whereas pipeline is more automated and orchestrated one. So I think automating data refresh schedules will not be right option. The second one, which is B, implementing row level security cannot be established in Dataflow Gen 2, which is one of the limitation of Dataflow Gen 2. So option A should be the right answer. So we can extract data once for reuse, and we can reduce the frequency of data source connections that way. Number two, while monitoring a data pipeline, you observe that a data flow Gen 2 is not producing the expected outcome or output. What could be the possible reason for this issue? The data pipeline trigger is configured for manual execution. Incorrect transformation logic is applied in the data flow Gen 2. The third one is Power BI report is not connected to data flow. So here Power BI report is not the right answer because it's not relevant. So option C is not in scope. Coming to option B, incorrect transformation logic, which is applied in data flow Gen 2, or possibly data pipeline trigger is configured for manual injection. One of this we have to choose. Now again, let's think that data pipeline is not configured for manual execution. It's for automated and orchestrations, right? So option B should be the right answer, where incorrect transformation logic is applied in Dataflow Gen 2. Number three, your organization need to automate the process of ingesting, transforming, and loading the data into Fabric Lakehouse. Which combination of tools would you use to achieve this goal efficiently? So as we understood, you know, um, data flow Gen 2 is more in terms of cleansing, and pipeline would help in terms of setting up the orchestrations, automations of activities. So I think the combinations of both of them would be helpful to achieve like the desired objective. So I think this is the right option A, which is combination of both data pipeline as well as uh, data flow Gen 2.